welcome to Balancing the Scales, the Economic Justice Report. This is your host, Vic Bernsdorf, and on today's show we're going to be talking about these two topics. Talking about the Barnana Company and what the gig economy has brought us. Let's start with an overview of the Barnana Company. Folks, did you know that about a third of the world's food supply, entire food supply, is either lost or wasted? With fruits and vegetables being on the top of the list of having the highest waste rate of any food produced. Ugly fruit, especially, is what's wasteful all over the world. Why? Because it can't be sold. And it costs farmers on average 20% of their crops every year. About 50% of bananas grown on farms go to waste because they don't meet the standards. They don't meet the standards of Walmart or of Costco or Save Mart or all the other big chain supermarkets, right? They might be either too mushy or too small or just a little bit too brown. Right? Now, the Barnana Company was formed out of a desire to stop this kind of waste in the food supply, especially for bananas. The founder, Kiwi Spulisi, knew how nutritious bananas were for one's health. So Q formed the Barnana Company, which was inspired by his father's practice of dehydrating his own bananas back in the 80s. Now, the Santa Monica-based company, Barnana, had become a provider of banana-based products. So let's drill down now and give you a detailed view of Barnana's mission and why I'm talking about this company in the first place. So in Barnana's case, environmental sustainability is a core value that runs deep from concept to their manufacturing process, with the company using their own banana waste as fuel. And the Barnana Company's aim is to do whatever it takes to reduce food waste in as many areas as they control as possible. Let's watch this clip and come back and talk about it.
Americans waste 150,000 tons of food per day. They send it right to the landfill, mostly because it's ugly. That's why the co-founders of Barnana are making ugly-ass food into tasty-ass treats. When I first met Barnana, they saved 27 million bananas. Now they saved over 12 million more.
Nick was just in the Amazon visiting some of our suppliers.
It's a very agricultural sort of society, but sometimes they don't have the best method to go to market. It's awesome that we can be part of that and also help them get certified organic. And they get a higher price for their goods as a result.
They're now in Walmart and Costco.
When we stumbled upon this food waste thing, our raw material was wasted, right? And so we're able to have this competitive advantage on cost.
So the Barnana Company has saved over 85 million bananas as part of its mission to combat food waste in the United States as well as around the world. Now, what does this company have to do with economic justice, which is what the basis of the show is all about? Why did I choose the Barnana Company? Because the Barnana Company is also a B-Corp, as in a B corporation. And if you remember, I talked about B corporation in another show. B corporations, unlike their cousins of C corporations, are not solely fixed on profit alone. B Corps, as they're called, are legally required to consider the impact of their business decisions on their workers, their customers, their suppliers, the community they're based in, and the environment. Okay? It's a social mission to use corporations for the good of society. That's one of many goals of a B Corp. Now, this is what ethical companies voluntarily sign up for to become. And the Barnana Company is one of those companies who decided that they want to make an impact not just on the bottom line, but on the bottom line of their workers, of the society around them, right? And of making an impact on nature, as in helping it survive. There are now more than 3,500 B corporations in the world. Remember, deciding to become a B Corp is totally voluntary, okay? All B Corp companies have, before they became B Corps, voluntarily decided to change their business model to benefit society and the environment and their employees, not just their shareholders. Okay? They get that through something called the B-Lab certification, which means that B corporations have proven their commitment to what? To environmentally and socially beneficial business practices, to public transparency, and a legal accountability to balance profit and purpose. And that purpose is to improve society, to improve their community, to improve the lives of their workers. Corporations who want to become a B Corp, they have to pass a 200-question assessment from B-Lab. Like I said, which is a certification agency that judges an organization's performance across 5 impact areas. What are those areas? Governance, how well they manage the business, the environment, their employees, their customers, and the community that they're based in. And then, on top of all that, they have to pay a yearly maintenance fee to the B-Lab certification agency, or body. So, look into B Corps. And I urge all of you to patronize B Corps, like the Barnana Company, so that we can all start creating a more humane and sustainable society. Why? Because their cousins, the C corporations, which only care about profit, right, will then feel the pressure to become B Corps as well. And then we as customers will all be part of a movement to live like George Bush Sr. said, to live in a kinder and gentler society. For more information on how B Corps benefit society, go to bcorporation.net. Okay, let's move on to our next show segment. Okay, this next segment is called What the Gig Economy Has Brought Us. And let me start by giving you an overview of today's topic. Today, nearly 80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Why is that? Well, the gig economy, which has been with us for, the last 15 years, had a lot to do with that. All over America, the fastest growing category of new jobs is in gig work, which means either contract, part-time, temp, self-employed, or freelance type work. Right? Almost a quarter of American workers are now gig workers. It's bad enough that wages have been stagnant for the last 40 years, but on top of that, now we have uncertain incomes to deal with as well. For example, there's less consumer demand. A change in consumer habits or personal injury or sickness can cause future paychecks to shrink or disappear completely. Let's have a detailed look now at what the gig economy is all about. So, according to polls, about a quarter of American workers are worried they won't have enough earnings to pay their bills in the near future. Steady jobs are disappearing worldwide, but especially here in this country, here in America. The gig work is erasing 85 years of really hard-won employee protections that labor unions and Democrats fought hard to put in place for American workers so they can live a dignified life. Okay? At the rate gig work is growing, future generations of workers won't have a minimum wage, unemployment insurance, workers' compensation, employer-provided Social Security, overtime, family medical leave, disability insurance, or the right to form unions. All gone. Okay? So, why do C corporations use gig workers instead of using regular employees? Well, because gig workers are 30% cheaper than regular workers. And companies don't have to spend a lot of money. Don't have to spend money on any labor protections that they would have had to deal with if these gig workers were regular employees. Yeah. Companies in 2020 America are becoming leaner and meaner. The emphasis is on meaner, in my opinion. Okay? Which means gig workers are having to accept more and more economic risk, personal risk, which results in a more insecure income and a harsher life for them at home. Okay? Now, remember, I'm talking about C corporations, not B corporations. Keep those two business entities separate. Okay? Gig work is a great deal for companies like Uber and Google. They can set workers' rates, terms, working conditions, whatever they like, while at the same time treating them like independent contractors who have no security or protections like regular employees would normally have. Right? Like I said, gig workers, unlike regular employees, are forced to live in economic fear. And some gig workers are even putting their life on the line. Let's watch this video clip, come back and talk about it.
The gig economy is killing people. An international group of delivery workers have published information that, for the first time, is starting to show the scale of the problem. They've collected the stories of 14 people who've died whilst working for platforms, and they've only started to scratch the surface of the real problem. Behind each number, there's a story. Like 21-year-old Arctic, a migrant from Kyrgyzstan, who worked for 10 hours straight for Yandex Food in St. Petersburg before collapsing and dying of exhaustion. Or Bill Chen, who was hit by a bus whilst working for Uber Eats in Sydney. The stories of George, Julian, Pablo, Maurizio, Alberto, Frank, Sue, Jose, Ramon, Pujan and Karim are much the same. But why are these workers dying? Is it their fault? No. Platform workers are usually paid per delivery. And over the last few years, wages have been driven down to poverty levels. Now that means if you want to make a decent wage, you've got to go faster and faster. If you want to make a living, you've got to risk your life. This is capitalism, baby. We're all told that we're free and equal, but in reality, the working class have to risk their lives for the profits of the ruling class.
Wasn't it? Well, that was pretty sickening to watch, wasn't it? But that's the reality of the world we live in today. It's a race back to the conditions that existed at the beginning of the last century, 1900. Okay? Look, the gig economy means that gig workers are no longer employees. They work for themselves, and unlike regular employees, what do they give up? They give up fixed salaries, paid holidays, and any other company benefits in favor of working a daily schedule. A schedule that is sometimes so grueling that even restroom stops are difficult. Research has found 6 common traits that are common to workers' experiences in the gig economy. What are those traits? Insecurity of work, insecurity of income, low pay, debt, exploitation, and constant anxiety. What kind of life is that? Huh? What kind of life is that? Folks, this is the takeaway from this segment. Let's be really clear. Gig work is an innovation of capitalism, and capitalism is all about maximizing profit. C corporations never stop thinking about how they can reduce their labor costs to increase their profit. Notice I said C corporations and not B corporations, okay? Keep that distinction in mind. You know, unless our government provides stronger safety nets for gig workers, an economy based on gig capitalism alone can't survive. At least not for long. Why? Because consumer spending is the single most important driving force for the U.S. economy. I think it's like 75% of the U.S. economy based on consumers spending money, okay? And a race to the bottom in wages, right? Well, think what that means. It means that cities and states and counties have less salaries to tax, right? And with less tax to collect, basic services that Americans like fire, police, emergency services, well, they'll be in danger of being cut. I personally fear that we're going back to the year 1900 in this country and the conditions that existed in that year, a breakneck speed. Well, that's the show for today. Next week we'll be talking about these 3 topics. Insulin prices in America, why are they so high? Then I'm going to be discussing the social benefits in Belgium. And then I'm going to be starting a new show segment, which I called Vote Them Out. In this segment, I'm going to be comparing the voting records of Republicans and Democrats and have you decide who has your back and who doesn't care at all about you. And we're going to be starting with the voting records of Senator Markey and Senator Rubio. If you're interested in the topics I present on this show, please consider subscribing. In the event, have a great day. And remember, you deserve the government you vote for.